Hello, and welcome to a new day and a new week. Hope you rested properly and have reviewed your goals for the week. The topic for today's discussion is one many people struggle with, including myself sometimes. But I'm beginning to build systems, protocols, mindsets, disciplines that are helping me to meet up with the demands. Today's discourse says, be consistent. Yes, be consistent. Before we go on, let me leave you with this definition of consistency by one of my teachers, Brian Tracy. Now, Brian Tracy has been my teacher for the past decade, like 10 years. I think from 2014 when I left high school. The first material I came across was Eat That Frog. Yeah, so you could go check it out. So this was his definition. Consistency means that dependable, steady, predictable work is vastly superior to spots or flashes of genius and brilliance. Again, consistency means that dependable, steady, predictable work is always vastly superior to spots or flashes of genius and brilliance. I'll tell you, consistency is a very powerful force. So powerful that it can turn little things and effort into magnificent results. I'll give you a few examples. When I was in high school, some of the students who were found as burglars of people's lockers, now the padlocks of the lockers, used spoon, not hammer, not mallet for the operation. Come to think of it, using a spoon consistently to hammer a lock until it gives way. That's the power of consistency. Now, true, what they were doing was wrong, but it produced results. So that's an example of how that little thing you keep doing can produce results. Another example of consistency will be found in Luke chapter 18, verse 1 to 7. And this is a parable by Jesus of the widow who reached out to a judge. She wanted judgment, and funny enough, I'll tell you, this judge was a wicked one, but he had to grant her request so that she doesn't weary him. And I'll tell you a funny story very similar to that parable that happened to me last year during my industrial training attachment. Before I was able to secure a place, I'll be very honest, the whole process was frustrating. Very, very frustrating. So I decided I was going to call, message, and be at the place of signing every day. I could tell that the lady in charge and the others who were supposed to sign my document and make it happen started dreading my calls. In fact, I'm sure they started dreading seeing me because I told them, this is my lecturer's number. If you're not signing it today, just take and call him because the time for the vetting, because you have your lecturers come to vet you at your place of IT, and that time was drawing near for me. So I began to put them under pressure. Call my lecturer, tell him this is what is delaying you, and they did. And I eventually got 3 places of IT I had to choose from. Okay, so I'm going to share with you 4 subtle things, or maybe 5, but these subtle but very potent things that consistency would do for you that you might not even be aware of. Number 1, consistency creates identity. Many people will refer to me as a pianist or an MD even because they see me play different other instruments once in a while. But most people will refer to me as a pianist and an MD because that's what they see me consistently do. Maybe, just maybe, people are refusing to buy that product or service from you, not because it's not good or not because you're not good, but because they don't know you with that identity. You haven't been consistent. Okay? So by the end of February, March, if I consistently put out this content, this podcast, you begin to even identify me as a podcaster or a YouTuber, even more than a musician. That akara woman. Now let me not use just women. So that akara seller on your main street sells out every day, not necessarily because of being educated, but because he or she has consistently showed up and is selling that product. So people are able to predict that on my way to work by 6:55, 7 thereabout, this woman will be there. I can buy this product from her. So I'm budgeting so amount to buying that product. So tell me, what identity has your consistency or inconsistency given you? Secondly, consistency with focus breaks you from the circle of always having to learn from the beginning. And this is what I mean. There are some people who have been trying to learn a skill for almost a decade now, meaning from 2015, you've been trying to learn how to bake, how to code, how to play an instrument, how to video edit, just learning to be competent at a skill. And if I were to be honest, today, if they're calling for those in the learning category, you'll still be amongst them. This is one of the biggest secrets I've used to learn several instruments. I designate like 5 months, 4 to 5 months of consistent practice and routines of daily learning and implementation of what I learn. For example, it could be as thorough as committing 4 to 6 hours, that's those years I had time, to learning and practicing. And the surprising thing is that in 4 months, those who have had like 8 to 7 years of experience on the instrument will be like, Omo, where did you come out from? When did you start? And most will be shocked when I tell them I just started 4 months ago. So especially for learning and mastery, time is not as important as your commitment to consistency. And I'll tell you for a fact, this is something I have tested, I've tried it, studied it, applied it, is working. So some people will say, how many years do you need to learn this particular skill? They'll say, no, it will take time, or it takes 4 or 5 years. It's not true, okay? What it takes is consistency, commitment to consistency. That's what it takes. In a very short period of time, with consistency and focus, and with the right teaching materials, you can learn almost anything. And I said with the right teaching materials because your skill is going to be limited by the level of competence of your teacher or your teaching material. So if you are still in that WhatsApp group that have been attempting to learn to play the guitar since lockdown, I know this is stray bullet for some. Until today, you are still planning to learn or still struggling at beginner level. Consistency is the answer. So, number 3, consistency makes for the development of muscle memory and even your neurological memory. That's your brain memory. This is what I mean. Your muscle could be trained to do repetitive tasks accurately and at high level of difficulty by consistently repeating the technique or the task in the right way. Note, I said in the right way. If you start out doing it wrongly, that's just practicing it wrongly, in the wrong way. That's what your brain and your muscle will learn. So, therefore, don't just practice until you start getting it. No, practice until you can never get it wrong. This is what makes people exceptional in their craft. I can almost tell you. Number 4, consistency brings about predictable results and realities. Do you know that consistency of your thoughts will begin to influence your immediate environment? That's what differentiates the developed nations from the underdeveloped. That there is a consistent mindset that keeps these people in the developed world, that keeps them acting in a particular way by impulse. They don't even think about it. And it keeps them on the track of consistent development. And for the underdeveloped countries, you only see flashes of that mindset once in a while. You hear discussions and resolutions and how they want to implement a policy. And after 2 weeks, that's all. There are even some countries, I'm not going to mention the name, that you can almost predict that this implementation of this particular thing, maybe a zebra crossing or a particular good policy, will just last for 2 weeks or a month, and that's all. Okay, so for countries like that, you just see flashes of these things and it doesn't affect any change. Just imagine cooking with sparks from a lighter. How possible? You would never be able to cook with sparks from a lighter. But do you know, with a consistent burner at very low heat, you can cook the best meal. And I mean at very, very low heat. Oh, that's that blue flame. My mom sometime told me a parable, and this is a parable, that with patience and consistency, you can cook ordinary water to become sweet. Now, I haven't really gotten the full import of what she meant, but that's why it's even a parable, okay? So if you interpret it literally, it might not necessarily make sense to you, but I understood it intrinsically. I don't know how. I just knew I understood the point she was trying to pass across. Let me tell you a little story, a backstory about a competition I had participated in a few years ago. So I was privileged to be on the piano on this competition. And before we went up, because we're going to be doing the same songs, okay, different groups, music groups, we're going to be doing the same songs, the rendition of the same song. And for that concert particularly, some people went to hire mercenaries. Now, I'd always said it when I'm telling this story, guys that I will see on TV. Those were the guys I saw real life having to play those renditions. And when I heard the first rendition, I'm from the best team, I just ran to my MD and I told him, we are winning this competition. Well, I'll tell you why I was confident to predict our results. Should I tell you why? I repeated that particular song, playing it 100 times. And towards the end of the last 50 times, when I started practicing it, if I got it wrong on 49, watch what I said. At 49, I'd been getting it right. First try, second try. The 49th try, if I got it wrong, I was going to start the circle all over again. Yeah, that was how consistent I was in learning it. And as soon as it was our turn, as soon as we played the intro, I just saw instrumentalists with their cameras and all trying to take snapshots and make videos of what we were playing, because I made sure that I was sounding like a recording, note for note, chord for chord, technique for technique. That was how determined I was to win, but it came on the premise of consistency. Number 5 and the last, consistency brings about exponential results in the long run. Even in the short run, if there's anything like that. So just imagine, the concept of consistency is slow and steady wins the race, right? Yeah. But just imagine that you are able to move at a reasonable pace, not necessarily fast, but at a reasonable pace, and still be consistent. I can't even imagine the kind of results you begin to manifest. I've seen few people manifest it and their results are unprecedented. So you can pick that as a challenge this year, that you would put in the effort, not follow the regular route of slow and steady, and you will still be consistent. Now, I'll leave you with these few counsels to help you on this discourse of today. Number 1, write down areas you know you need to be consistent, and don't just jump to start. Remember our previous podcast, not so fast, calm down, okay? Now, this is what you want to do. Commit a time frame, especially if it's a skill you want to learn. Commit a time frame that you would use to consistently practice and build this skill. Now, in our first podcast of creating goals, this is something I mentioned to be quarterly goals, okay? So curate the materials, the master classes, payment for maybe a tutor or something, and just designate time, at least 4 to 5 months, okay? Secondly, find an accountability partner and be determined to see the process through to the end, no matter how tough it becomes. Now, some people are consistent when it's easy, okay? And then when it becomes tough, when you're having time comprehending certain concepts that are coming with the change, then you begin to slack, okay? But determine from the start that you are going to be consistent. Number 3, during those periods, reduce busyness. Now, this is one of the biggest hindrance to consistencies that I've come to realize. It can even be busyness on the seemingly good things. Remember, Jesus said to Martha in Luke chapter 10 and verse 41, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things, but one thing is needful, and Mary had chosen that good part, which shall not be taken away from her. Do you know there is a skill that you can sacrifice to learn consistently for the next 6 months that can change the trajectory of your life, like this year? This is a word for someone out there. Okay? Now, finally, begin to practice mindfulness. Always be conscious and remind yourself, this is the task at hand. In other words, make your mind day. Yeah, that's it. Make your mind day. Trust you've gained something from today's podcast. Don't forget to share with a friend, whoever needs to hear this, and repost if you can. Your week is blessed already. Go and make it happen. Bye for now.